Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler, author of A Saga on Home Video. One thing that we cover sometimes on the show that I'm not covering in A Saga on Home Video, that I'm not covering in the book, is fan documentaries, or documentaries about fans. They are Star Wars items per se, but they're not necessarily official productions tied into the actual makers of Star Wars, whether it's Lucasfilm, Disney, or whoever. But I try to show these every once in a while just because they're kind of interesting things that you might collect as sort of supplemental stuff in a Star Wars Home Video library. Again, I'm not detailing these all in the book because they're not official releases in that sense. They're legal releases, but they're not official releases through, say, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment, whatever. We're going to take a look at 3 of these within the span of this episode and the next 2. And I gotta say, some of these, to a degree, are interesting, and some of them are cringeworthy, oftentimes sort of in equal measure. Just depends on which one we are looking at here. So this time we start our look with a documentary called Starwoids. That's Starwoids, which is defined at the beginning of this program as one having excessive zeal and irrational attachment to a cause or position of the Star Wars trilogy and its components. Just the name initially kind of irks me, because I can't quite tell. Are they basically saying we need a name that's kind of catchy for this documentary, so we're going to make up a name, and just to make sure people understand what we're trying to say, we're going to define this in the opening, and then that's it? It's just our word? Or are they trying to sort of create a word for Star Wars fans that could go into common usage, like Trekker or Trekkie at different times for Star Trek fans? I hope it's the former. If it's the former, it's okay, and, it is what it is. If it's the latter, my God, please don't ever call Star Wars fans Starwoids because it makes it sound like something you need to see a doctor for. Now, this opens with Kevin Smith actually doing some initial narration, and it's kind of focused on as, hey, get this, Kevin Smith is in it, but not really. He does some opening comments that you can barely hear because of the background noise. Otherwise, he's not really in the actual documentary itself, so don't be fooled in that regard. This is actually a documentary that has 2 DVD home video releases that it's had over the years. Comes from Film Threat, as the publisher. So we start here with the original release. Okay, now this original release is from 2001. Okay, it says Starwoids. Has different fans here. Make note of the Slave Leia lady because that will be an issue momentarily. It says the best documentary on the Episode 1 experience. TheForce.net. DVD, Film Threat down here, with Kevin Smith narration and interview. Yeah, narration for the first few seconds, not for the rest of it. And yes, there is an interview within the bonus features with Kevin Smith. Okay. Spine here. We have the cover image just small. Film Threat, Starwoids, product number, DVD, Indie DVD, I guess the publisher symbol there or whoever, and DVD video. Then on the back, it's Woodstock for the Star Wars generation. Information we'll read in a moment. Amusing and affectionate LA Times. Starwoids makes a perfect non-fiction interlude for a festival devoted to fantastic cinema, LA Weekly, because this was at the No Dance Film Festival. Not Sundance, the No Dance Film Festival. We have the Downstream Digital logo down here. We have the filmmaker bio, born and raised in Detroit, Dennis Priswara, if I'm saying that correctly, has since moved to Los Angeles where he is currently a music video director and commercial editor. Tech specs with the running time and your extras running time. Winner, best documentary at the No Dance Film Festival, Film Threat, DVD, Legalese. In the corner here, special features, Kevin Smith exclusive interview, director's commentary, deleted scenes, filmmaker diary, Star Wars fan profiles, and more. So what is this? As it says of itself. On April 7th, not April 7th, it's not really how you write it, but okay. On April 7th, 1999, lines formed at the Mann's Village and Chinese theaters to see the first Star Wars film in 16 years. Filmmaker Dennis Priswara, if I'm saying that right, actually stood in line for 42 days to capture the frenzy caused by the release of Star Wars Episode 1. True fans clashed over those dramatic weeks as a rivalry ignited between the lines. Meet the fans behind the phenomenon, from a Boba Fett musician, a woman who drives an X-Wing automobile, fans crashing Skywalker Ranch, to a high school production of Star Wars the Musical. Starwoids goes beyond the hype to reveal the fandom, the frenzy, and the pursuit to see the most anticipated film in cinema history. Inside you have a relatively basic disc, Starwoids, film threat, indie DVD, runtime, product number, legalese, just there on black. And by the way, if you find this and it is new in shrink wrap, it'll have this little sticker on it, official selection, George Lucas Star Wars Celebration 2, back when they were doing those fan film festivals and awards. So what's on it? And I've taken notes here to try to make sure I don't forget anything that I wanted to mention. It kicks off with an FBI warning, and then, kind of weird, a film threat warning, right? The company's warning. Quote, "This film is intended for your own private use. Your friends," in quotes, "can buy their own copy. Remember, pirating films or supporting bootlegs is the same as stealing from the filmmakers. Support independent films of all kinds by purchasing and renting videos and DVDs like this one and telling your video store to do the same." A good message. Not sure we needed it, but okay. The friends in quotes thing just kind of it cracks me up a little bit. Her friends can get their own. Jackasses using you for your bootlegs. Again, they define the title right at the outset. It's not a real word. That's fine. This is 2001 and DVD for a documentary, so not surprisingly, it is a full screen 4:3, which makes sense. It does include some bonus features. One is called Daniel's Diet, which is text literally explaining the man's diet. One of the individuals in here, Daniel, is a bit of a bigger guy, and when they do some interviews at the end with them after the fact, months and months later, I think it's a year later, he's lost a lot of weight, and they actually include the diet on here. It's a little weird, but interesting. There's an interview with Kevin Smith, lost or deleted scenes. There are 7 of them, 2 for a section about Star Wars the Musical, 2 for a section called Star Wars Memories, and then the British Crusade, Homeless Movie Critics, and the Super Genius short film about this guy who's like a DJ, I guess, that dresses up as Boba Fett, essentially. There are biographies and filmmaker diaries as well, along with a commentary from the director. The biographies, by the way, are just text-based for 12 individuals in one collective, the collective one being the Star Wars the Musical crew. The filmmaker diary is sort of a slideshow of text. It's all centered. Probably would have been better to have been proofread, perhaps, because, by the way, the word when you're talking about a sordid affair is S-O-R-D-I-D, not S-O-R-T-E-D. Proofreading might have helped. But anyway, so what is this about? It primarily focuses on 2 competing, if you want to call 2 lines that sometimes bitch about each other, competing line groups for The Phantom Menace that began in April of 1999 at Westwood's Mann Theaters. That is Daniel Alter's group at the Village Theater and Lincoln from CountingDown.com's group at Mann's Chinese Theater. It actually starts with Alter waiting outside, kind of camped out for the Phantom Menace trailer in November of 1998. If there is a villain of this piece, it tends to be Lincoln and the CountingDown.com guys. You may not remember this. CountingDown.com was this big deal back then because of this, where basically they just sat out and waited for the Phantom Menace, but live streamed a bunch of stuff from the process, got sponsors, raised money for charity and that sort of thing, and that kind of grew. Eventually there was liningup.net, which is kind of a spin-off of that, which we'll actually see in another of these 3 that we're going to look at, 2 episodes from now of this series. But there were sort of 2 groups, and the one from CountingDown.com, sort of the better known one, is mostly cast as sort of the villain of this piece, if there is a villain of it at all. They're certainly not treated as favorably as the one for Daniel Alter's group. There are cutaways, but most of it focuses on the weeks spent waiting for the Phantom Menace and the dynamics of the people in the line, the camaraderie that they build, the goofiness of it, and that sort of thing, and the weird obstacles that they run into. But they also cut away to topics like interviewing the team behind one of several Star Wars the Musical productions, this one a high school one, including seeing them try to visit Skywalker Ranch and having to instead look from outside the grounds and get stopped by security, who's mostly friendly about it, by the way. There's a cutaway to a Star Wars toy collector named Guy Klinder, who discusses collectors versus dealers, the logistics of toy runs to multiple locations, goes on a search for shooting locations in Death Valley, California. There's an interview with Hal Wamsley, who played Dacha the Jawa. It's the one that jumps out and blasts R2-D2. It's a rather unflattering interview, not in terms of what he says, but the fact that he's sitting back and it's got an unflattering shot of his gut while he's talking. There's another cutaway that's a brief bit with Scott Chernoff from Star Wars Insider. There's a cutaway to the Ungodly Reigning Celebration 1 in Denver, Colorado. That includes a shot of an after party with Ahmed Jar Jar Binks' best beatboxing, which is interesting, though very brief. It covers the Episode 1 toy launch on May 1st, 1999, which kind of looks like Black Friday, frankly. There's an interview with Phil Brown, who played Owen Lars in A New Hope. There's an interview with Morgan Phillips, aka Super Genius, the Star Wars Backbeats DJ, or Breakbeats, DJ with Boba Fett attire. Interview with a woman named Katie Horn, who did cosplay as an X-Wing pilot and turned her car into Red 5, launching the Road Squadron group. But early on, just some notes in terms of the content here. Early on, it is strangely heavy in comparisons between Star Wars and Jesus, unfavorable to the latter, but eventually there is an interview actually with a priest who actually relates Star Wars to concepts of good and evil within his calling as well. So while there are some moments where those who are particularly religious might see this and cringe, there is a moment in which it kind of circles back and takes it from the other direction as well. We will not see this in some of the others. There's not really much in terms of narration or spoken questions or anything, so it's mostly these individuals in their own words as it happens, kind of reality show-esque, which is one style of documentary. You can have narration or not, and most of this is not. The few times there is anything that needs to narrate, it's text on the screen, except for that opening with defining the Starwoids term, or using the Starwoids term and then having to define it through Kevin Smith. So it begins prior to the main line. It wraps up about 4 days after the premiere. Not just the night of the premiere and their reaction, so we see them a few days after it, once they've kind of digested everything. The latter segment does point out the ongoing bond formed by the individuals from Daniel's line. By the point of interviewing, looking back on that part is when we see Daniel way thinner, hence including his diet, as I mentioned. There is a sort of where are they now type of ending that talks about the lineup that's coming for episode 2 and how CountingDown.com is one of the biggest entertainment sites in the world. Who is this again? We think in 2020. It's got pretty decent audio for the most part, but the opening audio is so bad that it's really hard to hear Kevin Smith and kind of starts to put you off. Don't worry, it gets better. It's actually a pretty decent documentary. I mean, if you want to see these people in their own words and see fans and their camaraderie and such, and see sort of the toll that doing something like this took on them, it's interesting. If you remember back in '99, seeing these lines and kind of wondering what the hell that was all about, it is an interesting documentary about that for the most part doesn't make Star Wars fans look like assholes or idiots or pathetic. It's a little odd that they're standing in the line, but they take that as granted and run with it as they go through. For the most part, it is taken relatively seriously. Relatively so, I say, aside from the Starwoids name. But in 2005, they released a special edition DVD version of this that took that whole we're going to treat fans seriously thing and sort of tossed it out, but at the same time sort of answered fan questions. Because this is the 2005 special edition. We have ourselves here a Slave Leia cosplayer on the cover. To this special edition, Starwoids, the ultimate Star Wars fan celebration, the best, theforce.net, amusing and affectionate LA Times, perfect LA Weekly, Film Threat, DVD down at the bottom. Our spine here. Her face, Film Threat, Starwoids, DVD, the back, her again, the definitive doc on Star Wars fandom, then stuff there we can talk about momentarily, special features listing on discs 1 and 2, it is a 2-disc DVD set, Film Threat web address, filmmaker bio again, without his picture, this time with the little Jawa head, Film Threat, legalese, tech specs once again. This one describes it, the definitive doc on Star Wars fandom. When George Lucas announced he would make a Star Wars prequel trilogy telling the story of Anakin Skywalker's transformation into Darth Vader, the fan faithful celebrated and then mobilized. They lined up to wait months to see the first Star Wars movie in 16 years. Filmmaker Dennis Priswara was there to capture all the fan frenzy. As each new chapter of the Star Wars prequel trilogy came to theaters, fans, often known as Starwoids, bullshit, you're the only ones calling them that, shared the excitement, the insanity, and the heartbreak of epic movies that forever changed not only pop culture, but an entire generation. This feature-packed double-disc special edition DVD includes never-before-seen footage of fans lined up for episodes 1, 2, and 3, exclusive commentaries, a guide to collecting, a how-to for action figure creation, a parade of Slave Leia lookalikes, and so much more. Relive the memories in this celebration of Star Wars fandom. Okay. So, and I think that Slave Leia lookalikes thing, I don't recall actually seeing it on here unless they're talking about something they did with the menus. There's a special features, 3 feature film commentaries, filmmaker commentary, Star Wars collector commentary, and line commentary, and trailers. Disc 2, Saying Goodbye to Star Wars, Kevin Smith interview, Slave Leia girls, Star Wars the musical clips, Where Are They Now, plus deleted scenes, cast and crew biography, photo gallery, DVD, ROM features, and much, much more, etc., etc. Inside, you have basically a film threat advertisement underneath because it is a clear case. And your discs, you have disc 1, the feature film, art version of the same person from the cover, Starwoids, disc 1, feature film, film threat, DVD, running time, product number, legalese, bonus disc, Starwoids, disc 2, bonus features, film threat, DVD, runtime, product number, legalese. So, I tend to think of this as the Nerds Like Boobies edition, because the Slave Leia cosplayer there is on the cover, and on just about every menu inside here, along with one of the discs' disc art. It's like the whole we're going to take fans seriously thing gets tossed out the window, and now it's the, you want to get fans to buy it? Fans are nerds. Bring on the boobies. It seems to be the approach they decided to take. There is a reason for it. We'll get into that in just a moment, but it feels like they sort of undermined themselves there. Anyway, the special edition adds a couple more commentaries. The Star Wars Collector, which is the director and Guy Klender. The Line commentary, which is the group for the line. It adds trailers for unreleased stuff, except Starwoids having a trailer, but it's all film threat stuff. It's all unrelated stuff. I said unreleased, unrelated stuff. The main commentary is the director and alter. It's not specified in the menus for the original, but that's who it is. No other bonus features are on disc 1. You have photo galleries for the No Dance Film Festival, where it won Best Documentary, the Egyptian Theater screening, promotional items, the 1999 Chinese line, the 1999 Westwood line, and if you're on the photo galleries page for the bonus features and you click on the Slave Leia on part of her somewhere, they've built in a bunch of Easter eggs, and that one sends you to footage of the director's sled-off event that has nothing to really do with anything. You have deleted scenes. The deleted scenes include a new tattoo after the toy sale. Can't we all just get along? Death Valley / Bantha Canyon. Feeding the Westwood line, getting tattoos. Go Solo from the Star Wars musical. Sand People Dance. Space Station. Saber Making 101. And the original scenes from the previous release back in 2001, except for the Super Genius short film, which is now under other features. Clicking on the woman's bikini provides someone talking through a trooper mask and a buddy having to translate for him at Celebration. Under other features, you have Super Genius short film, Action Figure 101 with Super Genius, the last line, the Kevin Smith interview again, the bios, and clicking on the woman's hair gives a couple of singing Klingons in costume from Star Wars Celebration. If you go to the Where Are They Now section, Super Genius Goes Hollywood is a quick little feature for him. A look back at the original 1999 Chinese line, Return to Road Squadron, and clicking on the hairpiece of the Leia provides a tiny interview with the woman. And you might say, well, why in the hell is this Slave Leia everywhere? Well, it goes back to this. This person cosplaying as Slave Leia, from what I could tell, doesn't ever actually appear in the documentary. And apparently people were looking for her and trying to figure out where the heck she was. Again, nerds love boobies. And enough of them reached out to the filmmakers to ask where she was in the original release, that for this, apparently a few years later, when she looks a little bit different because she's grown up, she winds up being used for all of these menus and the packaging, and they give a quick little Easter egg that allows people to actually see a quick tiny interview with this woman whose name is apparently Tanya, who was apparently interviewed for the original documentary but not included, but they still had the footage, so they made it one of those quick little bonus feature things as a quick little Easter egg. So it's the hairpiece on the Where Are They Now page that you click on to get the little interview with her that's very, very quick. But apparently they took the fact that fans saw this and went, boobies, but couldn't find her, and asked about it as their prompt to say, you know what? That's what nerds like, that's what they're gonna get. In your face everywhere with Tanya, apparently. So part of me says they sort of undermined themselves on how seriously they took the first one, because aside from that opening and the Starwoids title, it's actually a pretty decent documentary. I feel like they kind of undermined themselves, but if their undermining of themselves was a direct reaction to all those requests they got based on the first cover, I guess I can see why they did it, even though it is still a little bit weird and leans a bit towards the creepy and perverted along the way. But whatever, to each their own, I suppose. So, if you're looking for an interesting documentary about the Episode 1 line from 1999 with some odd little sidebars to go along with it for other things contemporary to 99, you can pick up Starwoids, either in its original or its special edition from 2001 or 2005. Again, ignoring the packaging, if that bothers you, it is still a solid documentary to check out. You don't see that necessarily always with fan-made documentaries, or documentaries about fans. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.